Hello everyone, I'm Jyoti from the Manipal School of Architecture and Planning in India, and I'll be presenting a study on the evolution of Buddhist architecture in Andhradesa, which is located on the southeastern coastal region of India. The following is the order of today's presentation. Before we get started, I'd like to provide some context for the research. The study is intended to understand the evolution pattern of Buddhist architecture of sites present on the southeastern coastal area. The attempt is to present an account of various forms of existing Buddhist monuments in the region and how has it transformed and influenced between 400 BC to 900 AD. The focus of the study is on the remains of built heritage which contributed to the development of the trade route, and it is an attempt towards understanding the ancient architecture of these Buddhist monuments and its diversification over period. History of Buddhism dates back to 5th century BC. The teachings preached by Gautam Buddha emerged as a new school of thought. The principles of Buddhism attracted a large number of people as it spread out of Ganges Valley in the 3rd, 2nd century BC into North India and then into the northwestern Deccan and from there towards south coastal area, further towards the Karnataka region. The use of iron during 600 BCE near the Krishna and Godavari Valley ushered in a meaningful change in the material life of the people here. The advance in the metallurgy during that time led to large-scale clearance of jungles and human settlements in the area. Provided here are two timelines to understand the spread of Buddhism across India and related with Andhradesa. According to the archaeological excavation and investigations that were done in the past, Buddhism in Andhradesa is believed to be from the pre-Ashokan times. However, it spread evidently across during Ashoka's reign when Andhradesa was a part of his domain, that is during the 3rd century BC. The main objective is to help understand the ideas and practices transmitted over time influencing the development of Buddhist architecture. Coming to methodology, the primary data collection is through archaeological updates and government brochures, and by deriving information from archival data in form of schematic sketches, timeline, and maps. The medium of representation of my understanding would be in form of mapping the evolution with respect to the period, era, and architectural typology, and by establishing the possible trade route that influenced development on interpreting existing documents and through illustrations based on comparative study. Andhradesa had close relations with Buddhism from 4th century BC to 6th century AD. The presence of Buddhism emerged along the trade route, contributing to the urbanism of the place. However, Buddhism was divided and subdivided into several schools, and the significant schools that came to dominate the religious culture between 4th century BC to 7th century AD of Andhra were Theravada, Madhyamika, and Vajrayana. The remains of Buddhist settlements that consist of monasteries, temples, stupas, viharas, chaityas, etc. in this region give us an understanding of how Buddhism flourished in the coastal area of Andhradesa along the trade route. The attempt is to study and understand these built structures of Buddhist settlements through archaeological sources and define its evolution over time. The schools of Buddhism with their subsects flourished in Andhradesa, and their temples were built to suit the religious needs and requirements of the locals. There were mainly two types of Buddhist settlements divided based on their activity. First one was Sankhara, which consisted of a community settlement mainly for teaching and religious purpose. And the second was Bodhara, which was settlements that provide a resting place for tourist kitchen and dining facility. Further, we discuss and analyze it in terms of material study, comparing build structures, settlement pattern, and possible influences. Looking at the rocket caves as a dissimilarity of pattern can be made out in terms of carving the arches and the proportions and detailing of these build forms. This variation is in order to serve different purposes as per the requirement. Next, moving on to the stone monuments that came into the picture during the Ashoka's reign mainly. The stone was mainly used for surrounding enclosures as railing and structural support such as stupas, mandapa, vihara, and stone pathways. The settlements were mainly made up of local material that were available such as condylite and black granite. Next, moving on to the brick monuments. The transformation of technology from rock cut to stone and to brick was majorly during the 1st century BC, and it continued till 13th century AD. As bricks would be made and used in plains as well as hills, brick of different dimensions were made on site and used for construction. Most of these sites seem to have gone under phase-wise constructions. Proceeding to comparative study, here we have taken few of the settlements demarcated along the route and tried to understand the planning pattern, features of architectural components, material used in order to categorize them and define their typology. As you can see, through the variation of the architectural components in each of these sites, starting from the first one, which has 4 brick-built stupas, to having the circular chaitya grihas and votive stone stupas and pillared mandapas in the other one. In Salihandam, you can see that the large vihara complexes and rectangular halls and dining facilities have been emphasized, whereas in the Bavikonda site. In Guntupalli, we see rock-cut monasteries and pillared halls with votive brick stupa on site. Moving on, comparing these components in detail. For example, here in terms of Mahastupa, you can clearly see there's a variation in terms of shape, form, and the Mahastupa is not only in terms of the area, but also in terms of the material and height that they differ from each other. Moving forward to discussing votive stupas that were constructed to commemorate visits or to gain spiritual benefits, one can see the variation in form of how from an earthy wound progressed to small, how it has transformed to a small votive stupa, where they are mainly wheel pattern, and they have a base made of brick and stone, and they are also progressed towards having tired form of votive stupa scattered all over the site. Coming to viharas, which are considered as Buddhist temples and monasteries, variation in terms of usage and composition is evident. The vihara set up in various regions, paved with bricks initially, later has turned into large complexes made of terracotta blocks and bricks. Whereas in terms of chaityas, one can see that there is an advancement in terms of size to accommodate as per the requirement of the period. Deriving some key understandings from the comparative studies that are listed here. Under settlement pattern, we have taken up 2 cases, that is Totlakonda and Pavikonda, which are Buddhist complexes in a proximity of 6 kilometers from each other. These are located on hills overlooking the sea near Bhimunipatnam, that also lies in the southeastern coastal area. The strategic location of these monasteries is said to have played an important role in spreading Buddhism towards Sri Lanka and other parts of South Asia. Buddhist monks used it for both residential as well as academic complexes. So Totlakonda and Bavikonda have primary similarities such as spatial arrangement, division of ritual area, cloisters, and refectory, but they differ in terms of layout, sizes, and elaboration in the main stupa. The differences are shown in the figure and are assumed to be influenced firstly by the phase-wise construction funded by the merchants and sea voyagers, travelers, etc., and that brought with them different ideas and cultures. Secondly, due to the demand to adapt to the local traditions and practices of the place. The settlement pattern also indicates that the monastery was not isolated in both the sites. Instead, it was meshed within a landscape of relations, both religious as well as economic, sort of connecting monks to the local area. Located as a central place in terms of roots, Andhradesa acted as a maritime power that took a leading role in spread of Buddhism. The road to Kalinga connected it with the northern part of the India, whereas the road to Dravida connected it to the south. The famous Buddhist sites are found along the routes, either by the water bodies or on the hills. It was along these paths that the Buddhist monks traveled and brought with them different ideas and cultures. Buddhist establishments were often set up in strategic places that would give shelters to merchant caravans and the sea voyages. The spread and the vitality of trade was directly linked to the spread and vitality of Buddhism. Andhra played a crucial role in the propagation of Buddhist religion and the birth and the growth of the various sectors of Buddhism. These sectors had their establishment consisting of stupas, chaityas, and viharas built by the donation of the followers. The economic part of Buddha's teachings significantly made an impact on the society during his era and later. So, Buddha believed in the advantage of collective ownership of the property, and most monasteries were located near the river valley basin or the flat hilltops running along the east coast of Andhradesa. These areas are observed to have rich and fertile lands equipped with river connections for transport and communication. The recovery of many Buddhist sites along this area serves the evidence to state that Buddhism spread from southeast coastal area to Burma, Sri Lanka, and other southeastern Asian regions. To summarize, the coastal region of Andhradesa grew as a focal point, particularly during the Satavahana expansion, when the coastline became a trade hub and which significantly contributed to the growth of religion, art, and architecture. It is also clear that the circuit of Buddhist monastic sites was responsible for urbanism because they attracted a large number of people by encouraging trade. Through a comparative understanding of these Buddhist sites, it is possible to conclude that the built aspects have changed over time in terms of shape, form, and dimensions, and in order to meet the user's need of that time period. The variation in the physical form and the arrangement pattern, whereas, was primarily influenced by the material and construction technique shifts that took place, where there appears to be an attempt at synthesis of different practices, attempting to incorporate social unity and cohesion as seen through the evolution of architectural features. These locations are significant landmarks in the history of Buddhist architecture because of their uniqueness and antiquity. The development and restoration of these Buddhist sites would not only broaden the scope and avenues for proper utilization, but it would also boost tourism. Thank you for your valuable time and patience. I'll be glad to answer your queries or questions if any.